This call is being recorded.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. This is Catherine. We are kicking off this evening's coaching session. Tonight, we are going to be reviewing 3, going into 4, and also talking a little bit about 5. So we hope that you are excited about what we've been doing for the past several weeks. And, one of the main things, even as we enter into tonight's conversation and enter into tonight's coaching session, is that I hope everyone has been working on their individual activities in between the coaching sessions, because they are super important to help you build from one level to the next. This is an interactive coaching session to help you build while I'm giving tips and tools as you continue to grow your organization. So I want to do a review about number 3, because number 3 is super important, because this deals with the funding, this deals with the money, this deals with the assets of your organization, being able to build decade to decade. One of the things that's very important is that when we talk about assets, we talked about last week that it's not just only liquid cash in the bank, although that is a component of it. But we talked about who is in your network. It is the sum total of what is in your network, which will equal your asset. But let's talk about the 2 different divisions. We know liquid cash in the bank is considered money that you can touch, money that is not connected to a loan. Now, a second category is property owned. Sometimes one may own a house, a car. Let's say you may own a commercial building. That is something where you can, at a point in time, consider that an asset as well. I just want to again thank everybody that has been participating for these past several weeks. It's been I've been getting positive feedback in terms of how people have been able to use the tools as they continue to grow and as they continue to build their organization. Now, there's another category to your assets, and that's category talking about your network. Who is in your network? What is considered to be something that you will want to have in your network? Agencies, institutions, board members, committee members, business and civic leaders, people of the community. Who do you have in your network? That's the time where we all have to take an assessment. Where are we in our business? The people within your organization have a value, and most organizations don't calculate that into the equation. How do you determine the value of the network? You want to calculate what each person or entity in your network brings to your organization. Do they bring resources that help push the vision forward, or are they a liability that detracts the value of the vision and it stagnates the progress moving forward? Are you determining the assets of the organization? Will it pull it off what you determine that you want to have happen? Is it going to help you accomplish your mission? Is it going to help you accomplish your goal? What are the board members doing? It's very important to make sure that they specifically have a role and responsibility. I was talking to someone, they said they have board members, but they haven't given them any role or responsibility, so they're kind of all over the place. To avoid that from the very beginning, everyone needs to have a role, everyone needs to have a responsibility, but more importantly, they have to have already signed the bylaws. Now, if one is at a phase and you don't have bylaws yet and you haven't even gotten to that point yet, that is a point where we're going to be talking about bylaws on tonight. Bylaws is the governing document between you and your board of directors. It breaks down everyone's role and responsibility. You have your president, your vice president, your secretary, your treasurer. You can have a subcommittee as well, and you can have an advisory committee team. And we're going to break that down a little bit later, but I want to kind of keep going on in terms of the assets. The assets is something that you also build over in a timely fashion. One of the things that I think a lot of organizations they don't plan out their financial portfolio and how they want to grow their organization. You can divide your board member into 3 teams. This all deals with your assets, because you don't want to have board members that's just sitting there and it's not bringing any value to the organization. So when we think about the network and your assets, what are the assets in your network? This team will evaluate the sum total of what's in your organization. Now, this is something where you can divide your board members to examine what are your network assets. Then you have another team that's going to look at the liquid, the earned income, and the ongoing assets. Example, Goodwill Industries acquires their earned assets from the retail business, which yields ongoing income into the organization. This team will evaluate the earned income business model of your organization, i.e., what's bringing in the money. There's another category, the expense review. 30-day asset determination period. And this is particularly for new and established organizations, day 1 through day 15. And for those that just joined, I am doing a review of part 3 as we flow into 4. Day 1 through 15, you want to construct an inventory of your organization's assets by examining the following areas: board of directors, subcommittee members, volunteers. Who's in your volunteer database? Business collaborations. Who's in the network? Civic partnerships. What does that mean, civic partnerships? That means who else in the organization are you partnering within the community that also is a 501c3 or a charitable organization? They may not do what you do or vice versa, but it makes sense and it complements each other's organization, so you work together in a partnership. And people served to date, i.e. your target audience. Who is your target audience? And then your board of directors should focus on marketing the organization and creating a funding plan that reflects a 10-year financial plan. Your subcommittee members support the strategic plan of the board of directors. So again, not to get confused, you have your board of directors, you have your founder, and underneath your founder, you have your board of directors. And then underneath the board of directors are your subcommittee members. Think of it this way. The subcommittee members is a support system for the board of directors to help them execute in daily action steps. Your volunteers are the heartbeat of your organization because they contribute their skill set in various areas of your organization to strengthen the foundation. Your business collaborations and civic partnerships are vital because they are the extensions from your organization into your network. Strategic partnerships can grow your organization, and it should grow at least 10% annually. Here's an example. Let's say you started with 10 strategic partners, and at the end of that year, did you grow by 10%? Did you add 1 to 2 other businesses at the end of that year? Now, the thing is, a lot of times organizations will be stagnant because they're not adding anything to the equation. When we think about day 16 through day 25, and again, I am in step number 3 right now doing a review, and then we're going to go into 4. You want to construct an inventory of your organization's assets. And actually, this is some of the activity that everyone should have had an opportunity to do so. And if not, you can take the time right now as we're doing the coaching session to start taking some notes. What do you have in your inventory? What type of assets do you have? Not only cash, but you can put that in a column as well. What type of business owners do you already know that perhaps will want to collaborate with your organization? Okay, now make another column. What type of corporate sponsors do you have in mind that potentially may want to work with your organization? One of the things to keep in mind is that you want to develop a component of your program that's going to have earned income money coming in, that you're not just dependent only on a grant opportunity. Grants are great, but if grants don't get renewed, you still have to make sure your organization is going to operate. So that's super important. A lot of times organizations' doors close because they didn't have a proper balanced financial portfolio. And without that, unfortunately, a lot of times organizations will not continue to grow. The thing is, you want to think about when you're creating an earned income product, it can be a product and or service. Is it something that's going to fill a need in the marketplace? Is your product something that's broad that a lot of people would even want to purchase? Give an example. The easiest example to use is T-shirts. You see a lot of nonprofit organizations do T-shirt sales. Everyone at some point in time is going to need a T-shirt. And then if you come up with some kind of catchy phrase, logo, or design, it is something that can sell. That's something that a broader population will want to purchase. Now, you don't have to just limit yourself to a T-shirt line, but that is just an example of something that you can do to raise capital. The other thing you want to be thinking about is, does your organization own intellectual property? And if your organization does not at this time, this is something you really want to be thinking about. Example that it states in the manual, training and workbooks. Come up with a curriculum, because curriculum is something that can be documented within your organization, considered as intellectual property, and now you can market and package it to other organizations that might need that particular program that you put together. The other thing is, let's say schools. I know specifically Title I schools. They have funds that to bring in other outside entities to the schools to provide after-school programming or other services. So you want to think about, how can you package your program into a product? A lot of times when organizations is creating their program, is just service-based, and they don't craft it in such of a way where it's a product. Now what I mean by that is, let's say it's a mentoring program, or it's a counseling program, or it's a feeding program. All those things are wonderful, but now how can we shift it into an actual product? For example, let's say if you're dealing with food, let's say you come out with a health and nutrition journal that can now be marketed and sold. Let's say the journal is for $10. Now you have a product. You're feeding individuals. Yes, that's great. But now you have a product that you can sell to everyday people that's into health and wellness. So they may not be of the homeless population or hungry, but they're into health and nutrition. So now you're creating and designing a journal that people will want to purchase. And that can create earned income. And that is something that doesn't matter what zip code someone lives in. It doesn't matter a cultural background. None of that matters. That is a neutral zone when it comes to generating earned income. So when you're thinking about what's going to be your product that you're going to package for your organization, that it can be marketable no matter what zip code, no matter what the cultural background is, that is how you will begin to have a broad population that will support your organization. No matter if they live in your state, your city or not, they will still support, because the product is universal. Some of the other things to keep in mind is, write down some key assets that your organization has. And if you don't have it yet, what are some key assets you're going to need? For example, if some organizations might be doing a computer training program. So what does that mean? You're going to need computers. Who do you need to partner with? Maybe you need to contact Microsoft. Maybe you need to contact Hewlett Packard. Maybe you need to contact Dell. So depending on your program, break it down into bite-sized pieces. If you're doing a clothing, if you have like a clothing pantry where people can come and get clothes, okay, let's think about that. What clothing outlets can we partner with that can bring in assets to the company? And by us partnering with that other larger company, that's now going to shine light on our organization. So when you're thinking about an asset, throw away the concept only liquid cash. Yes, we need the liquid cash, but a lot of times we have to have our marketing done in such a way that it increases our visibility for our asset to increase. A lot of times organizations are not getting the assets they want or the cash that they want because their marketing, they don't focus on their marketing. That's just the bottom line. A lot of times you'll see your organization's page and has never been updated, whether it's social media page, whether it's the website, is just not updated, and no one knows what's coming up next. So, but yet we want the check cut from a sponsor or grantor. The number one thing that every organization has to do, if you want to increase your assets, you have to increase your visibility. And if you're going to increase your visibility, you need to make sure your marketing is on point. So what do you mean by that? What does your logo look like? Does all your social media pages, are they consistent? With your message, what is your message? Your message is equivalent to your assets. If you don't have your messaging down, and if no one understands what you are, what you're trying to do, and who you serving, your assets will never grow. It's all congruent. A lot of times people get in the mindset, oh, we have a nonprofit, people are just going to want to give. That's not so. It's so, the field is saturated. So the thing is, what's going to be that shift that's going to set you apart from all these other organizations? A lot of times it comes down to marketing. How can you, create more hours in a day? Well, we can't. But what can you do? You can bring on interns. I might have mentioned it on another call, but if I haven't, I want everyone to check out internships.com. That's internships.com. If you have not set up a profile, please this week make that one of your action steps. Internships.com. Because we'll say we're in the beginning phases. I don't have a lot of people. I'm just one person. Go to internships.com, create a profile, start reading some of the resumes that's there. And you can also create an ad requesting for interns based on your need within your organization. Volunteer Central is another one. You need volunteers. You need more hands in the fire. Go to Volunteer Central. That is another way you can actually post an ad of what type of volunteers you're looking for. Maybe you just need a day of volunteer because you're throwing together a community event and you may need like 20 volunteers. When you go to Volunteer Central, you can create the ad, and actually there's companies and businesses that's connected to Volunteer Central that's looking for opportunities where they actually can send their staff to volunteer for community events and projects. So you don't always have to be trying to figure out where all these volunteers come from. These are tools that you can use. Another thing, when you're talking about the assets, when we're talking about marketing and visibility, I want to share two tools that everyone can use. One is called Constant Contact. If you haven't used it, definitely use it. You can create an email blast, and also you can embed videos in there. It can be the founder speaking. It can be a board member. It could have captured in an event that you've done. Now you're letting people see like maybe a 1-minute recap of what you're doing. After you finish whatever you do, make it a point to stay in the face of your volunteers, stay in the face of your donors, stay in the face of the people you're serving, because you want to stay fresh and relevant. The best analogy I can use is, let's say, entertainment industry. So there's a hot artist that comes out, there's the buzz is going, everyone's tweeting about them and Instagramming and Facebooking. But let's say, time goes along or they don't stay in the face of their fans. What's going to happen? Their reach is going to decrease because no one's going to be following them as much. It's the same thing when it comes to nonprofit. And I think the mindset is, we're nonprofit, people should just want to help. That whole mindset got to be thrown out the window. We have to stay relevant in the season and in the time that we're in. So we're in the month of February. So what's February? Black History Month. When we look at each month, even when we talk about determining your assets, you have to look at each month on the calendar, look at what is nationally going on in this particular month, and how can I create a fundraising plan around what's going on in that national month. What's March? Women's Month. Then you got Mother's Day, you had Father's Day. During the summertime, you have 4th of July, and all these holidays, all these different things, pretty much I feel like every month. Well, I forgot about Easter. So depending upon what someone may or may not celebrate, but my point is that you have to look at the calendar, look at the 12 months, and when you're looking to put together your fundraising platform, see how you can connect what's going on nationally with your cause and your mission. And you don't want to just connect to everything because it won't even make sense. Make sure it makes sense at the end of the day, but that is a good strategy to increase your assets. One of the things in the end of step 3, it was talking about, and hopefully everyone had a chance to do, but if not, definitely take some time this week to do it. Create or update your list of contacts in Excel. If you do not have Excel, you can do it in Word. That's fine, but Excel is a great way to do it. You want to include all contact information on contacts within your network, and this document can be used to upload for social media campaigns. That's why Excel is good, because particularly with Constant Contact, if you have everything saved in Excel spreadsheet, you can actually upload your contacts in Constant Contact, so you don't have to type it all over again. So that's one thing that's important. We're going to flow right now into step number 4, develop a strategic alliance, i.e. the network. Developing a strategic alliance is very important as you continue to build your organization. The strategic alliance is the third building step in the process of community engagement. On an annual basis, it's important to grow your network. We kind of talked about that a few minutes ago. And one of the things you want to think about when one may question and say, what is an alliance? It is a union or an association formed for mutual benefit, especially between organizations. It also can be between different countries. One of the things that I want to highlight with that definition is mutual benefit. Why am I highlighting that? Because a lot of times organizations will partner. I just talked to another client, and they was thinking about bringing on a partner, but that partner had nothing they were bringing to the table, and I had to just, suggest or let the person, give them something to think about. Is this really going to be a good strategic partner? Because if they're not bringing anything to the table, it's just going to be a one-sided thing. And then what's going to happen to the founder that's putting everything on the table and they're connecting with another founder that is not? They're going to get burnt out. When we think about network, it is a group or system of interconnected people or things. The strategy for growing your network should reflect a system that the board of directors have in place. When developing your alliance, it is important to have a clear understanding of your vision and to know the needs of the organization. Step number 1 it should be very clear as to what you're going to do within your organization. Through that process, you have discovered the resources needed to accomplish the vision. Now it's time to examine who you already have in the network and members you need to enroll to successfully see the project and implement with desired results. Who do you currently have in your alliance? This is a rhetorical question that everyone can think about. Who is in your alliance right now? And if you may not use the term alliance, who's in your inner circle? There's a book written by John C. Maxwell called The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. I highly encourage everyone to get it. Again, that's The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John C. Maxwell. And one of the laws was the law of the lid, and it was talking about those that's in your inner circle a lot of times can help propel you or pull you back, or sometimes you can just be stagnant. And then when it was talking about the law of the lid, it was talking about how leaders or visionaries or business owners and entrepreneurs will get to that ceiling and you're capped. It's like you're not going any higher, you're just stuck. And the huge thing when it comes to movement of an organization, growth of an organization, one of the other life things that breathe life into the organization outside of the volunteers is your strategic partners. Who are you partnering with? Who has synergy with your organization? What skills are they bringing to the table? If I didn't mention it last week, I definitely want to mention it tonight. When you're having a potential volunteer, even intern come on board, have a skills assessment. You want to make sure you know who's coming to the table. What are they bringing to the table? And a lot of times we just bring people on. We don't know what they're bringing to the table. Once you've determined who you currently have within your alliance, then you can begin to fill in the gaps with specific people that you'll need. An effective strategic alliance should encompass a community marketing engagement plan. What is that? A community marketing engagement plan is going to encompass community members. It's going to encompass the business owners in the community. We talked early on in the beginning when we started this coaching session about community mapping. Community mapping simply means in the geographical region and in the zip code area that I'm going to operate in, who needs to know about us? Who needs to be aware to know? Who needs to be aware that we're about to function in this particular community? So when you're doing the community mapping, that helps you then craft your marketing engagement plan. Who are you engaging? Your target audience. And this is so fundamental because if you do a proper marketing engagement plan, when it's time to fill out for a grant, you pretty much have a lot of the content already, because some common questions of a grant is going to ask, who's your target audience? It wants to know what geographical region are you going to be in? What are the desired outcomes? What are you expecting the outcomes to be? When you're doing your marketing plan, you need to have desired outcomes. What are those outcomes? I'm coming in this neighborhood, and we're going to be in this neighborhood for 12 months. What type of difference will be in this neighborhood at the end of that 12 months because your organization was there. You need to have very specific, clearly defined outcomes that can really turn into deliverables. You don't want to overstretch or overreach. It needs to be realistic. Community marketing engagement involves two or more organizations collaborating on a marketing strategy. So this is why it's so important to have a strategic alliance. I totally believe in community partners. I do. That's how my organization has been lasting to this point. Honestly, through strategic partnerships. And through those strategic partnerships, your organization is able to be sustainable. Strategic alliance, i.e., the network, is a couple pillars in that. It's your marketing pillar. Underneath that is considered brand awareness. For example, if you think about the word Target or Walmart, there's a mental picture that pops in your mind. So when you think about brand awareness in relation to your organization, what mental picture is going to pop in someone's mind? What's the mental picture? That is how you know someone has effectively executed on a marketing plan. If whatever their intent was, if the outcomes is visible, they obviously hit the goals. People are totally aware about who that organization is. They know their mission, and they actually see the organization active in their community. The worst thing is for an organization just to show up in the neighborhood when it's time to submit a grant. And that grant, see, certain grants will say you have to work in these certain areas. And sometimes people will dictate where they're going to operate their organization based on that. But here's what I'm saying. At the end of the day, you want to be true to where you're going to operate, And again, I'm not saying that, one cannot base it off of that particular grant in terms of where you're going to serve. But here's the thing. What if you don't get the grant again? What if it's not renewed? That's why you want to make sure you stay true to the mission in terms of where you're going to operate with where you feel that you're called to operate. Revenue. 3 categories: grant opportunities, corporate sponsors, and earned income. Many of you that have been listening, you probably can hear in a lot of things that I'm saying, I really push towards corporate sponsorships and earned income because that's also unrestricted funds. Grant opportunities, you never know what requirements they may have that is good, but just know what you're getting into when you get approved. Shared network and in-kind contributions. What is shared network? Shared network simply means in your network, your organization may be lacking some resources that it needs. For example, I partnered with the Chum Community Center to facilitate a youth program. They did not have a youth program. They had a facility, but they needed a youth program. So in our shared network, I was able to get space, physical space to run the program, and they was able to then do what? Get the youth programming for their community. So that's why strategic alliance is so important. When you're working with another grassroots organization, they're fulfilling their mission and you're able to fulfill your mission also. In-kind contributions. So that's not liquid cash. That's when someone actually gives you something physically, tangibly to your organization, such as a computer donation. Or if you're in a housing program, you needed furniture because you're housing homeless people, because you're running a transitional housing program, so you needed bedding and you needed furniture. They didn't give you the cash, but they gave you all the furniture that you needed. So that's still a dollar amount. So when you're filling out for a grant application and they're asking all income that came into your organization in a 12-month period, you calculate everything, including in-kind contributions. You just get the dollar amount and you calculate it accordingly. One of the other things that's important is that I want everyone to take some time this week is to write down their top 10 individuals that they think would be good strategic partners. Top 10. One may say, how am I going to determine my top 10? One of the things that I want you to think about is who is already active in the community. That's number one. Who is already active in the community? Number two, who do you see is consistent in their own business? Even if they're working for someone else, they may not be a business owner, but they're consistent and diligent even in where they work at. That's a good person to consider. Is this person detail, action oriented? Do they execute? If those things are in place, you might consider that person just to come on the day of an event and you give them a small role or task. but you don't want to put someone in place that's not going to actually execute on something that's being given. There's something that was put in this particular step. It was a case study, and it says Goodwill's network of 165 independent community-based Goodwills in the United States and Canada offers customized training and service for individuals who want to find a job, pursue a credential or degree, and strengthen their finances. Each local Goodwill must be accredited, apply for membership, and meet certain criteria established by Goodwill Industries International. Goodwill Industries established an internationally recognized brand which increased the organization asset. I want to go back to that because in the beginning, I talked about your marketing equals your assets. Your marketing will determine what your assets is going to look like. Your marketing is going to determine also what that financial portfolio is going to look like, which is the assets. And this was something, again, I that's why I love researching about Goodwill because of their plan that they have in place. I'm going to read this again. Goodwill Industries established an internationally recognized brand which increased the organization's assets. You increase your marketing, you increase your visibility, and your assets will grow. The trademark process is vital to the expansion of any organization. Why should your organization want a trademark? It will not only further legitimize your organization, but it will help with the branding expansion and the organization's recognition. In other words, it just shows that you're legit. It shows that you actually took the initiative to go through the process. Another example is most toddlers can't read, but they know about McDonald's, right? They know when they see those golden arches, they know that's McDonald's. They can't read, but they know McDonald's. And that's the thing. When someone thinks about your organization, when they see your organization's logo, or they just hear the name, what mental picture are they going to think? The strategic alliance, i.e. the network, should also have a technology component that enables the members within the network to share resources. There's another activity, which is to create a diagram and chart the type of people, agencies, and civic organizations and businesses that you need to develop in your network over the next 10 years. There's a quote that says, "It is hard to fail, but it is worse to never have tried to succeed," and that's by Theodore Roosevelt. One of the things that's very important is to make sure that you have alliance members that's going to help propel your organization to grow and to move forward. One of the things that I think that I've seen cripple any organization is that you don't have the right people in your circle. And I can speak to that because when I started, I was 22 years old when I started my organization. And a lot of times when you start your organization, you're starting with who you know. And that's typical. So no right, no wrong. But the thing is, when you learn to do better, you do better. So as everyone is getting educated, everyone's getting the knowledge that you need to build a foundation for your organization. The thing is, you have to take a honest assessment with who's in your circle. Is this person or persons really going to help propel it forward, or are they bringing it back? Couple of things. If you always have people in a circle that are the naysayers, they always are negative, they always say, no, this isn't going to work, that's not going to work, but they're never actually giving any legitimate suggestion. They're just constantly saying what's not going to work. That is a person that needs to be removed. That is a person that you don't need to constantly be in conversation with. A part of this coaching series is also talking about the mindset. And I want to talk about the mindset, and then I'm also going to break down the bylaws as well. So I want to go over the components of the bylaws. One of the things that's very important is you're shifting in terms of because some people are shifting from the W-2 mindset. We've all been there, including myself. Because if you have not worked for yourself or ran an organization, we're what? Society trains individuals to punch in and to punch out. But the thing is, when we're starting to build something of our very own, and it's our baby, and we're building it from the bottom, we have to shift the mindset. We have to shift the mindset and to think founder, CEO, president, vision, long term. What do we see? How can we grow this organization to be the best? How can we grow this organization that it even surpasses me, because once I've transitioned and I'm no longer physically living, will this organization stand? That will be predicated upon the community mapping, identifying where you're going to operate. Then it's going to be about your branding and your marketing awareness. Then it's going to be about your strategic alliance partners. When you think about strategic partners, think about a building or a house. Many of us, if we haven't physically seen a house being built from the foundation, we've probably seen some things online or TV and from a TV show. They build a foundation, but there's things that help before they put that roof on. There has to be some type of foundation and things in between the beams. Now, I'm not in construction, but we all have seen at some point when a house is being built, there has to be a foundation and there has to be a center before they even put that roof on. And a lot of organizations do not have a strong foundation because they don't have a center, they don't have a core. So I want everyone to think about, what does your core look like? Who is in the inner circle right now? And don't get upset if you don't have the people that you need right now. Many people don't when you're first getting started. But I want you to start thinking about, who do you need? With that being said, I want to break down the bylaws. The bylaws is the governing document between you and your board member. What are some main components in the bylaws? The purpose. In the beginning of the bylaw, it has to have the purpose statement, i.e. your mission. What is your mission? What do you plan on doing? Then also in the bylaws, it has to have the geographical region that you're going to operate in. For example, some may say, I'm operating in Washington, D.C. Wonderful. That's huge. Is there a particular ward that you're going to operate in Washington, D.C.? So those are some things you want to think about. Board of directors, what are the roles and responsibilities? When you think about the board manages the affairs of the organization. Now, how many directors can you have on a board? This is a common question. At minimum, you want to have 3. Now, you can have more than 3, but you have to have it at an odd number, because if there should come time to vote on a particular number, so you want to make sure you have that in place. I always tell people also, don't feel that you have to be swole with your board. You don't have to have 9 and 11 people. Sometimes too many people is too much confusion. Have the core people of what you need and build from there. Another common question is, what is the term and how long a board member can serve? A standard time frame is 1 year. However, you can have your bylaws set up in a 2-year term time frame. So at minimum 1 year, but you can have it at a 2-year time frame. We don't recommend that it would be more than that time frame, because if it's more than that time frame, a lot of times you want to be able to gauge what that person has contributed as a board member. Did they contribute? And, is it a good fit? So, and sometimes people get jaded, so you don't want them to sit in a seat for too long. However, it's not to say that they cannot renew for another 2-year term, but what has to happen? A vote has to take place where there's a review of everything that person has done in that time frame, and then a vote takes place. And then if that person is going to continue, then that's wonderful. Now, a person does not have to continue. When I talk about that, that's another common question. Does a person have to continue? And they don't. Now, what happens, a common question is, what happens if someone's serving on a board and they can't continue because maybe life situation has happened, their workload is increased, they just can't continue? They will write a letter to the board, giving the board at least 30, 60, or 90 days notice. So that way, that would give the board time to identify another person and to vet the other person. That's very important. And another common question is, what are some type of qualifications do we need to look at to even determine if someone is going to be on the board? That is based on the structure of your organization. So, for example, if someone was running a youth program, you may want someone that has a counseling background, that has worked with youth, that may even have an education background to bring some tutoring services to the table. Let's break down the different titles of the position. So president, vice president, treasurer, and secretary. The president will maintain updates of the organization and help the organization moving forward. The president is going to oversee the subcommittee, making sure all the operations and all the action steps are carried out. The president drives the long range vision, and then oftentimes is also the founder, the person that actually started the organization. Now, there's some organizations where there's the founder, and then the founder is just wants to be on the board, and then there's another person that's the president that's executing on these responsibilities. So sometimes it can be one and the same, sometimes it can be separate, depending on the structure of your organization. What are the duties of the VP? In the absence of the president, they are to fulfill the roles and responsibilities of the president. And that's why sometimes people may shy away from this position because they feel like it might be too much on them. The vice president acts as a representative and promoter of the organization. So even if the president is around, the VP still has a very active role. And they're an ambassador on behalf of the organization. They speak well of the organization. They conduct meetings on behalf of the organization, connecting with potential sponsors, connecting with potential partners, going out to networking events, making sure that they're keeping the name of the organization in the heart of the community. Now, what is the duty of the secretary? The secretary is a person that's tracking, taking notes at each board meeting and recording it, sending emails out, filing the minutes, and making sure everyone is aware of any things that's going on the calendar for the organization, as well as the secretary can help submit grant applications. That does not mean that secretary has to be a grant writer. That just means that they're good with writing, they're good with administration, they're good with staying on top of tasks. Duties of a treasurer. They receive and accept money for the organization. Now, I want to say this. Some organizations have it set up where the president or the founder, actually handles the money because maybe they haven't found someone that's trustworthy enough to be that particular treasurer. Now, some people may have a treasurer where all they do is just do the paperwork tracking, making sure all the money is accounted for in that particular regard. So that's important. What happens if someone, can't fulfill their duty? Once again, if there is a vacancy, it has to be the majority vote to actually bring on another person if that person needed to leave prematurely before their term. Let's say a board member had to be removed because, let's just say they're doing things that's not ethical, right? What happens then? A director may be removed by a majority vote. Again, it goes back to a vote. And this takes place at the regular scheduled meeting when the board members have that. Now, again, when are the board meetings supposed to take place? It's supposed to take place once a month. Each organization determines what day and time that is, but it is supposed to happen on a monthly basis. The other thing that I think that's important to talk about is I want to talk about the dissolution clause because this is important. And also I want to talk about the conflict of interest because conflict of interest is a big component when it comes to organization. So in connection with any actual or possible conflict of interest, let's say a person may sit on another board separate from your organization. They are bound, especially when they complete and sign the bylaws, they cannot disclose internal business dealings of your organization with another organization's board. Let's say that could be grounds for dismissal as well. Let's say someone sit on two boards and they've been sharing personal information that wasn't public yet, right? The thing is, that is a conflict of interest, and that's another thing you have to think about. Because I have another client, they have someone on their board and they're sitting on another board. Like, just make sure there's no conflict of interest there. So that's something you want to think about when you're developing your organization. Dissolution clause. If the organization should have to shut down, again, that is also done by voting. The majority vote. It wins in terms of if the organization is going to be dissolved. Now, what happens if there is residual money in the bank account of the organization that cannot be divvied up to board members? that money would have to be given to another charitable organization that does similar work. Let's talk about subcommittee members. Now, the subcommittee members, we highlighted this earlier, but it references this also in bylaws. The subcommittee members, they are appointed by one of the board members. So you can have a board member that may make a suggestion or recommendation to the founder and to the other board members of a potential subcommittee member that could be beneficial to the organization. One of the things that's important is to keep in mind that the bylaws is something that should be reviewed and updated on an annual basis. Keep in mind also something that's very important in the bylaws is gifts. If there's a gift given to a board member, that is not to be accepted. For example, let's say there is going to be a donation or contribution given. That board member cannot take it in their name. Like say somebody's writing a check and the board member gives them their name. It has to be written in the name of the organization. There are a lot of things that happen more than not what people may not realize, but it's very important not to have any conflict of interest. The other thing that I think is very important is insurance. Every organization should have insurance. You need to have board insurance that covers the organization and that covers the board if anyone wanted to sue for whatever reason that might be. You want to make sure you're covered. Members are covered. You want to make sure that you're not leaving yourself open to anything, especially when you're doing a great work in the community. So you just want to make sure that you have crossed all your T's and you have dotted all your I's to make sure as you're moving forward, you are doing the best when it comes to the operations of the organization. And so I just want to encourage everybody that as you continue to build, as you continue to grow, that you have to look for the unseen. And what do I mean by that? A lot of times people say, well, I don't even have a network. I've heard that before. Well, I don't even have a network. Where am I supposed to even start? Because I don't have a network at all. That is what social media is for. I have, and I'm going to share this story because I have a tour called the Speak Life Tour for those that may not know. And I've taken a tour to states that I don't reside in, I don't live in, I don't know anyone from there, but I do a zip code search. I identify the type of business people, the individuals that I'm looking for before I even get to that state. There's no excuse in 2019 as to why someone cannot grow their organization. If you don't have a huge network, then build it. And so there's no excuse. This is a year of no excuse. There's a quote that says, I'm not a product of my circumstances. I am a product of my decisions. And that's by Stephen Covey. That is essentially the mindset. And what I'm talking about right now, I'm going into the conversation of the mindset. What type of mindset do we need to have? We need to have let's just get it done mindset, because a lot of times we procrastinate. A lot of times we let days go by without building anything on our business. Now, yes, we know many may already be still working in their day-to-day job while they're building their nonprofit. Totally respect it. I've been there. I get it. But what type of time are we carving out for a nonprofit? Even if we say we don't have time Monday through Friday, okay, weekends. What type of time can we give it on the weekends? In other words, be intentional about committing to your business. Because I'm telling you, weeks, months, and a year will go by, and you'll look back and say, well, I didn't get anything done. And then people will start pointing the fingers. It's because I didn't have enough volunteers. It's because I didn't have good board of directors. None of that means anything. You got to stick true to your mission. You got to execute on your mission. I'm telling you, when you go at the speed of your heart and your passion, people will start following it. No one's going to follow something that's not moving. A lot of times organizations say, my organization isn't moving, the founder isn't moving, the president isn't moving, so it's nothing for them to move with. If you're the visionary and the founder, I always say sometimes you got to move alone, and then then what? They will follow. Sometimes we wait too long for people to start the train for us or to start up the car for us and get in the driver's seat. We are the driver. Founders, visionaries, CEOs, presidents, we are the driver. We are the captain of the ship. The boat ain't going nowhere if we don't steer it. We got to stop waiting for other people to steer it. One thing I learned a long time ago, and I got it from my father, you don't wait for nobody. You got to execute. You got to get up in the morning and execute. I might have said this quote before, but I'm going to say it again. It's by Mother Teresa. It says, I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the water to create many ripples. And I think this quote is connects to what I just said when it talks about you being the person. The pace of your organization and the growth of your organization is indicative of the CEO, the founder, the president, whatever title you may give yourself, the head honcho, the visionary. We got the vision. Okay. Well, the organization is only going to go as fast as you go. If you feel your volunteers are going slow, that's because I'm telling you the person at the top going slow. If we feel that the board members aren't doing anything, the person at the top isn't doing anything. And here's the thing, at the end of the day, if you are doing something, if you are blazing a trail and nobody else is doing that, then these are people that you need to just get rid of. Because a lot of times we always trying to pump blood out of something that ain't no blood coming from. It's done. It's done. They just need to stay in your friend category. They friends. They not your business partner. They just in your friend zone. And sometimes we got to determine that as a visionary, as a leader. Do this need to be in my business category or my friend zone? And it's no harm, no foul. You my friend. Cool. That's the zone you in. But right now I'm in my business zone. I gotta get it. I got some goals I need to accomplish by December 2019. Yeah, we still cool. We gonna hang out. Yeah. But you know what? Between this time and that time, I'm working on my business. And you can't be afraid to say that. So what if somebody say you working all the time? So what if somebody say, man, they so serious? So what? What are they accomplishing? What are they working on? Are they just wasting time? We can't let 2019 be a year to get behind, get away from it, should I say? And then we say, dang, I started out in January 2019 saying I'm gonna do this, and then here comes December 2019, and it ain't get done, and then we blaming everybody else. I'm telling you, this year 2019, this is a year we can't blame nobody else. We gotta look at ourselves. We gotta say, what am I doing? What pace am I running? What am I doing each and every day? And how much time am I wasting in my day that I could be putting in my business? Every day you got to work on your business. Every day you got to get up and you got to execute. Let that be your middle name, execute, for this 2019 year. Let execute be the thing that's on the top of your mind. Execute. There's a quote by Helen Keller that says the only thing worse than being blind is having sight but no vision. Helen Keller, for those that may not know, she was a blind woman, but she also became a poet, and she did a lot of things. But the reason why I like this quote, and it connects to what I was just saying, it says the only thing worse than being blind is having sight but no vision. Many of us, some have the tools that we need. Some maybe even have the financial resources, or some people may know the people that you can get the money from, but you ain't got no vision, so that the program still ain't going to take off. So either way, it doesn't matter if you got the money or you don't got the money. If you don't have the vision, if you don't have the tenacity, if you don't have discipline, that's another thing. Adopt the word execute and adopt the word discipline. Because if you don't have those two things, none of it matters, because it ain't going to get off the ground. There's a quote that says, leadership is the capacity to translate the vision into reality. That's a quote by Warren Dennis. Again, that says leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality. I tell you, many organizations, if it's not growing, if it's not moving, you got to look at the leadership. What's going on? Why is it stagnant? It says good business leaders create a vision, articulate the vision, passionately own the vision, and relentlessly drive it into completion. Good leaders must communicate vision clearly, creatively, and continually. Some people say, man, I'm tired of telling my volunteers what the mission, they ought to have it by now. I'm tired of meeting with my board members every 30 days. They should have it by now. No, it has to be fresh. However, the vision doesn't come alive until the leader models it. And that's a quote by John C. Maxwell. I'm going to say that again. Good leaders must communicate vision clearly, creatively, and continually. However, the vision doesn't come alive until the leader models it. Again, if anything's going slow in your organization, what is the pace of the leader? Failed plans should not be interpreted as a failed vision. Visions don't change. They are only refined plans. Plans rarely stay the same and are scrapped and adjusted as needed. Be stubborn about the vision, but flexible about the plan. And that's by John C. Maxwell. Some people get stuck and then stop moving forward because it's like, my original plan isn't coming to light. My original plan is falling apart. I've been there, done that. At 22, this is 16 years in community organizing and in business. Sometimes the plan will fall apart to let you see what the true plan really needs to be. So sometimes we have to really get in quiet moments where we evaluate. I had to evaluate my organization many times. What am I doing wrong? And I didn't look at other people. I said, what am I doing wrong? And then when you have that evaluation on self, then you're able to see things clearly. When we think about the word vision, what is vision? It is a state of being. Being what? Being able to see. See what? See what you want to have come to pass, long term, not only just short term, right? A dream is your creative vision for your life in the future. You must break out of your current comfort zone and become comfortable with the unfamiliar and the unknown. Sometimes we are in the land of the stuck. We just stuck because we don't want to get uncomfortable. We don't want to go into a place that's unfamiliar. We don't want to go to certain networking events because I'm not used to those type of people. I don't know who they are. And sometimes you got to go to a place where you don't know anybody and you meet the people that you need. So again, even if you are running at the pace you need and the people is not, sometimes you got to creatively remove them. Intact, being respectful, but you can't keep carrying dead weight. Some of the things that I want everyone to think about is, what is your vision? And describe your mindset. Do you have barriers in your own mindset? Because it's one thing that I'm gonna teach how we fill out the 501c3, get the 501c3 taxes. That's wonderful, but it's the mindset that we got to deal with. Do you have any barriers in the mindset? How can leaders break through barriers, preventing them from moving forward? That's a question you can ask yourself. How can you break through any barriers within your mindset? How can leaders use different phases that you've gone through in your life not as a hindrance, but as a building, as a stepping stone for you to move forward? And so one of the things that I think is very important for the organizations as you're continuing to build is to have personal development. How often are you journaling? How often are you taking a self-assessment on you to identify where you are and where you need to go? Self-assessment is very important in terms of the longevity of your organization, but also to strengthen you from the inside. There's some other questions that you want to ask yourself. At what point in time in your life did you recognize that you was a leader? How did you know that? What happened? Was there a pivotal moment in your life that you said, you know what, I'm a leader and I'm a leader because of this? Why am I saying this? Because people are going to ask you, well, how do you know you're the leader of the organization? What makes you the leader? Why do you feel you're called to this? You need to be able to give a response, right? What defines a leader? I know a common debate that's been ongoing is leadership innate or is it something that's learned? I think it's a combination of the two, but I do think it has to be something embedded into a person quite naturally. Be ready to be able to tell someone why you are the founder. I started this because of ABC. Why are you doing what you do? Is very important. To be a transformational leader, to transform, to help other people transform their life, that's a transformational leader. You're helping someone transform out of and into. You're helping someone to develop. So when you think about your organization, think about it as transforming lives. It's not just about getting a 501c3. It's not just about getting the grant funds, because if you serve the people right that you're serving, if you market the organization and stay true to your mission, the assets are going to come. It's all a building stone. Everything's interconnected together, but it also starts where it starts in the mindset of the leader. Because if the mindset of the leader isn't right, there goes the organization. So you have to have different points in times that you also have health checkups for yourself, not just only at a medical doctor, but just a mental break for self. Also, another thing to keep in mind is, what advice would you give someone else? What I mean by that is, as you're growing and building your organization and executing on your organization, what's going to come out of your mouth? What are going to be the words that you tell someone as to why you started? You have to be ready with that 30-second pitch. It's called a 30-second pitch. You could be somewhere and somebody say, why did you start it? You can't be rambling all over the place. So the activity I would like everyone to do is to create a 30-second pitch. And I will get with everyone individually on this, where we can talk one-on-one about what your pitch should be and how to craft your pitch. because that's going to be very key and very important. So I want everyone to write down something where you can spit it out in 30 seconds, and you can use your cell phone. Every cell phone pretty much has a timer on it, and you can time yourself. If someone asks you, okay, well, tell me about your organization. And at that point, it's quiet. They're ready for you to talk and tell them, how are you going to convey that message? What is going to be the words that come from you to them that allows them to connect to what you're doing? It's very important in terms of how you deliver the message, because how you deliver the message is going to be really the first impression that they're going to have of your organization. A lot of times we've all heard when you first meet someone, the first impression is the last impression. It's the same thing when it comes to your nonprofit organization. What kind of first impression are you going to give within your 30-second pitch? What are people going to know? What are they going to feel? See, when you do a 30-second pitch, it's about intellectual. You're appealing to their knowledge, their intellect, but you're also appealing to their emotions, and you combine it all that into one. So what will be the lasting impression when you talk about your program? Keep in mind, don't stay stuck. Don't stay in a rut. Know that growth, even within your organization, can be painful. Change is painful, even if you have to shift some people around. But develop an attitude of gratitude that no matter what you go through, no matter what phases your organization goes through, you know within your mindset that you're called to this particular program. You're called to execute. And sometimes we have to shift things around. We have to shift our own mindset. But continue to move forward and don't quit. Continue to move forward. I always like to end, my coaching with some words of inspiration and everything that I've been saying the past couple minutes. Don't get stuck. Move forward. Don't get stuck. Move forward. I want these words to ring in your mind even after this call. Don't get stuck. Move forward. Execute. Set a plan. Shift your mindset, right? The pace of your organization is going to determine how far it goes. And with that being said, it's 8:30. I am going to open up for any questions, comments, or concerns.